We are graphing absolute value functions again today. The general form that we reviewed yesterday, okay, is that you have your plus or minus in the front. We remember what that controls for the V?
Up or down.
Okay, if it opens up or down. Okay, then we had x minus h. What does that control? Which directions?
Left or right.
Left or right, and then plus k, that determines if you shift up or down. Which one is always the opposite of the sign in the equation? Okay, the middle. So this one, and the plus minus, you should already know what each of those do. The new letter that we're going to introduce today is an A in the front. Okay, and that A is going to represent the slope. Okay, so all of the other things you should already know of from yesterday. Today we're going to introduce the slope. Yes, ma'am?
Okay, so when because you know how we have the plus minus that tells us if it reflects up or down?
Uh-huh.
Does the number reflect if it's a negative number or a positive number? Because if it has like a minus in front.
A negative number would make it go down.
So if the problem wanted us to reflect it down, would that affect the number of the slope?
No.
It
would still be the same rise over run. It would just be, instead of going up and over, you'd be going down and over. But the number would be the same.
So if it's like a -3 rise and a 1 run, and it's like a minus for the reflecting up or down?
Well, you wouldn't have them separate. There would never be like two negatives, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
Okay. And then also remember, absolute value makes a V shape. Okay? So this should not be really hard at all if you understood what we did yesterday. So look at the first one. This one is actually a review. If I have a +2 here, which way am I actually going? To the left 2, and then if there's a -3, I'm actually going down 3. Now also notice, is there a number here in the front? There is not a number in the front. That makes it a 1 over 1. So I would go back 2 and down 3. And then I would go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. Now remember, with a V, you actually have to do that going this direction. And then you're going to go back to the vertex, and you're going to go up and 1 the other way to make that V shape. Okay? Then from there, you can draw in your V, just like we did yesterday. Okay? Now notice, why does our V open up? Because our A in the front was a positive 1 over 1. Okay? Alright, now let's look at number 2. This one's a little bit different from yesterday. We're still going to find our shift from these two numbers. So if it's a -3 and a -4, which way am I actually going? Right 3 and down 4. So I would go to the right 3, down 4. That puts me right here. And then you would look in the front at what the A is. What is my A here? 2. And if it's a whole number, you can always put it over 1. So what's going to happen is, instead of me going 1 over 1, I'm going to go up 2 over 1. Up 2 over 1. Then I'll go back to the vertex, just like yesterday. I'll go up 2 over 1 the other way. And then once you do that, you should be able to draw in your V. Now, if you remember when we did our unit on this, we had what was called a stretch and a compression. 2 would be an example of a stretch because your A is bigger than 1. Okay, but also remember that what happens to the graph is that your graph is going to get steeper. Okay, and so that's the result of a stretch, is that your graph would be steeper. Okay? All right, come down to number 3. Where am I going to shift my graph if I have a -1 and a +4? Which directions? Right 1 and up 4. Remember that this one is always the opposite. Okay, not the 4, but the -1. So go to the right 1, up 4, put your dot. And then look in the very front. What is my slope going to be here? 1 over 3. Remember that the top one is the rise, the bottom one is the run. So I'm going to rise 1, and then I'm going to run 3. rise 1, run 3. So starting at that dot, I'm going to go up 1 over 3, up 1 over 3. Then I'm going to go back to the middle, up 1 backwards 3, up 1 backwards 3. Oops, I did that last one wrong. Should be right there. Okay, then from there you can draw in your V. Okay, that should not be there. Pretend that's not there. What would this be an example of? A stretch or a compression? Compression. Okay, and this is a compression because do you see how it's kind of squished down? Okay, it's like somebody like squished it. Okay. Now, domain and range we talked about yesterday. What is the domain for an absolute value graph if you have an arrow pointing this way and that way? All real numbers. Remember, your abbreviation for that is IR. Your range, remember, you always do lowest then highest. Very good. Okay, lowest to highest. My lowest point on this graph is at a height of 4. My highest point would be infinity because you have arrows. Remember that 4 is a number, so it gets a bracket. Infinity does not count as a number, so it gets a parentheses. Okay? Alright, look at the next one. I am missing a number at the back. What does that mean my back number is? 0. Very good. So I'm going to go to the left 3, and then I'm going to leave it alone. I'm not going to go up or down. So to the left 3 would put me right here. What is my slope? Okay, negative 1 over 2. And so instead of going up 1 out 2, up 1 out 2, I'm going to go down 1 out 2, down 1 out 2. So that's what the negative changes in the graph. Then I would go back to the vertex and go down 1 over 2 the other way. Would Aussie, will you put your phone up, please? Oh, look at you. Okay. I take it back. Okay, domain, what is it? All real numbers still. And then range, remember, it's lowest to highest. If your V opens down, what's the lowest point? Negative infinity. Okay, and then what would the highest point be here? How high is this pink dot? 0. Very good. A lot of times y'all will say negative 3 just because it's on that dot, but remember, you're saying how high it is. That would be a 0. Bracket on 0, parentheses on infinity. Okay? Alright, turn over to the back. The other aspect of these that you need to be able to do is you need to be able to solve. We sort of touched on this a little bit yesterday, but not a ton. So when you turn over to the back, look at the first example. Okay, number 5, if I have 2y minus 1, you're always going to get rid of the add or subtract first. So if it's a minus 1, I'm going to add 1. Okay, remember that we talked about yesterday, you may never add inside those bars. So you're always adding behind them. Okay, same thing with subtracting. So these guys would cross out. I have 2y equals negative x minus 1. What is my 5 now if I add 1? 6. Perfect. Okay, from there I have a 2y. How do we get rid of that 2? Divide. Now, when you divide, you're always going to divide in 3 places. Remember, you cannot divide in the bars. You're going to divide here. You're going to divide on the 6. You are also going to divide in front of the bars. Now, if there's not a number there, what number counts there? That's a 1. So these guys cross out. I have y equals. Can 1 divide by 2 evenly? No, then you just leave it. Then I still have my x minus 1 in here. Can 6 divide by 2? Yes, so that would be a 3. Now, from here on, we're going to just identify this central point as the vertex. So if this is a minus 1, what is the actual x of my vertex? Plus 1, then 3. So we're going to start writing it as an ordered pair. I don't care if you want to do the arrows, but know that a vertex would be an ordered pair. So let's go to 1, 3 on our graph. And then we would identify our slope next. If it's a negative 1/2 in the front, that is my slope. So I would need to make sure that my v goes down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2. and then you would come back to your vertex point, which is right here, the 1, 3, and you would go down and over 2 the other way.
I just have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so like in the original problem, there's a negative in front of the x minus 1.
Uh-huh.
Did you make that one, or I thought that would be like if it reflects everything?
It is, and that's why our thing opens down. So don't think about like the 1/2 and the negative as separate. Think about that tells you to go down 1 over 2. But the down part is coming from the negative. Okay? And so then your V is right here. What would the domain be for that still? Same as on the front? All real numbers. Okay, and then my range, remember lowest point first is negative infinity on a down graph. Okay, and then our highest point there is a 3. Open, closed. Would that be a stretch or a compression if it's an A equals negative 1/2? Compression. Huh?
Compression is the opposite.
Is if your slope's less than 1. Not including the negative though. And it also flattens your graph out. Okay, look at the one right next to it, number 6. What are we moving first? Okay, minus 15. Now notice, is there a number back here this time?
No.
Then you would just put your minus 15 back there. Okay, if there's not anything to combine it with, you just list it at the end. Remember, it cannot go with the bars. That's how come it goes at the back. Then from here, what would I do last? Divide by 3. So I'd have 3y equals 2x minus 1 minus 15, and then divide by 3. Remember, you are always dividing by 3 in 3 places. On the original side, in front of the bars, also at the back. These guys cross out. So you're going to have y equals, can 2 divide evenly by 3? No, leave it as a fraction. And then can 15 divide by 3? That would give us a 5. Your vertex always comes from these two numbers, but remember the x number, you have to change the sign. So if it's a minus 1, it would be positive 1, negative 5. 1, negative 5 would be down here. Next, I need to identify the slope. What's the slope here? 2 over 3. So then I would go up 2, 1, 2, 3. Up 2, 1, 2, 3. You would do it one direction, then go the other direction, and then you would have your V. So up 2, 1, 2, 3. Up 1, 2, 3. Now remember, we did talk about yesterday, okay, that your domain is always going to be all real numbers, okay, because your V extends to both directions. But your range is going to be different each time. Is my graph here, does it have a lowest point or a highest point? Lowest. How low is that lowest point? Negative 5. And my highest point would be infinity. Okay? From there, look over at my number 7. Okay, we're going to practice solving this one, and then we're going to move on just because we've done several of these. What would you do first? Plus the 12. Okay, notice if it's a minus, we have to add it to get rid of it. So then I have 2y equals 4x plus 1 plus 12. Then my last step, I would go through and divide by what? 2. How many places are you dividing by 2? Just here and here? No, there should always be 3 places that you're dividing. Good. So these guys cross out. I have y equals, what's 4 divided by 2 in the front? 2x plus 1. What's 12 divided by 2? 6. Where would my vertex be? Negative 1, 6. And what would my slope be? If it's a whole number, what do you put it over? Over 1. Very good. A would be 2 over 1. I guess we can just go ahead and graph it. Okay, negative 1, 6 would be here. And then if it's a 2 over 1 slope, you would go up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. Up to the other way 1, up to the other way 1. And that would be your V. Would this count as a stretch or a compression? Stretch. Okay, and you want to think about the stretch is up and down. So it's a vertical stretch, but it is getting skinnier. You don't want to think about it horizontally. You want to think about it up and down. Okay, domain would be all real numbers, just like it always is. Your range would be from 6 to infinity. Closed, open. Okay, the last thing that you need to be able to do, just like yesterday, is you need to be able to write equations given a graph. So if you're looking at F here, that's this V. Okay, where is my vertex? -2, 5, okay, -2, 5. And then the other thing that we would need to find would be what the slope is. Now, I drew these graphs on Microsoft Word, and now looking at it really big, I can see I didn't do a great job. But I want you to count the slope just between these first 2 points. Eventually, the line kind of is not right on. Okay, but for those first 2 points, what is the slope? 1/2. Very good. Your A would be 1/2. Because it's up 1/2, up 1/2. So my equation, my 1/2 would go in the front. My x would be with a -2, is that right?
+2.
Should be a +2, thank you. Okay, and then a +5. So remember, this number in here has to always be the opposite as the number of the vertex, okay? Last one we're going to do is G. Look at it. What is my vertex ordered pair? 5, 3. And now count your slope for me. Just pick the next pretty point. So it would be like right here or right here, either one.
-1,
Count rise first
-2.
over 1. So it'd be -2 over 1. Now, do you have to put the over 1? No, you could just put a -2 there. That would be fine. And then you'd have x minus 5 and then plus 3. Okay? Alright, so you have this homework from today. You have your homework from yesterday. If you have any late work, that's all due today. Tutorials after school if you need to take a quiz or test or correct one. Okay? And don't forget to bring